All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Brooke Kleeberger. I am a Diamond Ambassador with Plexus. I've been doing this for almost 6 years, which is crazy to say, but I am honored to be on here tonight to be sharing with you guys. And I am going to let my guest go first, but I have to give a special introduction for her because she is actually my sister-in-law, Vanessa. I'm sure you've probably seen her name out there. She's been killing it. So I've been doing this for almost 6 years. Vanessa has been doing this for maybe 6 months, since the end of the year last year. And she has a really amazing business testimony. And she's also going to share some of her tips with you, which I'm really excited for you guys to hear from her because she's somebody who watched me for a very long time and was very skeptical for a very long time. And so I think it will be really good for you to hear her perspective on the business, her take on the business, and her story, which will also help you connect with those skeptical, super skeptical people in your network as well. So Vanessa, take it away.
Okay, thank you. So like Brooke said, my name is Vanessa. I am her sister-in-law, and I'm going to start like way back from the beginning. But first, I don't want to see myself. I want to see all of you. There we go. Okay. So I was thinking last night, like, what was my very first interaction with Plexus? And I remember it was almost 6 years ago now. Lauren had posted this video, probably on Facebook. She had like woken up at 6 a.m. and she went to volleyball, probably like a volleyball game. And she's talking about this pink drink and how she drank this pink drink and it like gave her energy all day. And I was like, oh, great, Lauren, like, here we go. One of those things. So then like a little bit later, Brooke and I start having all these kids, and Brooke's like, I really just need energy. Like, I wonder if that works. And I'm like, no, there's no way that that works, but you go ahead and try it. I'm not trying it. So Brooke tries it, and obviously like it works. It works for her energy and her health. And then it works for her financially. And I'm like, still skeptical. Like, there's no way that that actually is a thing. Like, it's a scam, you know, all the things that everybody thinks. And so I let Brooke continue on her way, and I'm doing my own thing. And fast forward to June of 2020, and I start this health and wellness business, my very own thing. But I felt like it was like missing something. Like, I wanted something extra to be able to offer my clients. And so I start being a Beachbody coach. And I don't know how, we've never talked about this. I'm sure Brooke was like, what the heck? Like, you're going to be a Beachbody coach, but you wouldn't do this with me. So I continue on like this Beachbody journey. And to be very honest, like, I really enjoyed it. It was something I liked. And on paper, like, I was successful. I was a diamond coach. I was almost a 1-star diamond coach. I did it for about a year, and I was making like no money. I didn't have a great upline. And so ultimately I did it for a year, and then I was like, you know what? I don't think this is for me. I'm just going to continue with my own health and wellness business. I still really enjoyed it. I was successful with that on my own. So continue doing that. And then fast forward again to, I got to get my years right, January 2022. And it's like January 3rd. And I find out I'm pregnant with our 4th baby. This was not a planned baby. It was a very unexpected baby, not quite as unexpected as my first baby, but that's a different story for a different day. Just like not planning for this, because we are a 1-income family. And so I'm like super overwhelmed at the thought of, okay, great. Now we have another baby. We have a very small house. We don't have enough room for all these kids. We have 1 car. There's just like so many things that are going to have to change to make this work. Just like super overwhelmed. And so Tyler and I start talking, like, we're going to have some sort of shift, like financial shift, to make this happen. And so we start thinking, like, what are we going to do? He's a pastor currently. That does not make a lot of money. And so he starts training to be like the software developer. Well, you don't do that in a couple of weeks. That takes a very long time. So that's not really bringing in income yet. And so then he picks up a teaching job at the school that he coaches football at. So that's kind of like bringing in some income, but still like we are living paycheck to paycheck. And at the end of every month, it's like, okay, can we afford to go get more groceries, or are we going to have to wait until like the first of the month when he gets paid again? And it's just like that vicious cycle. And so fast forward to September, Cohen is born, and like 3 weeks later, the transmission in our car goes out. And that is a very expensive fix. If you don't know that, it's a couple $1,000s, and we do not have the money to fix it. Like, we don't have the money in our bank account to cover it. And that's our one car. Like we're still a one car family. And so Tyler calls his brother Kyle and he's like, we need help, which is really hard to do. Nobody enjoys doing that. It's a very humbling experience to have to do that. And so they so graciously helped us. And I think it was y'all went to Hawaii and you came back and we were hanging out with them. And Kyle was like, why aren't you sharing, like doing Plexus? And I was like, I'm not doing the MLM thing again. Like I did that once. I was successful, didn't make any money. I don't want to do it. He's like, I think you would be really good at it. Like you're already on social media. Why aren't you just trying it? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't have a good answer for him. And so on the way home, Tyler, who was like, if y'all think your husbands are skeptical, like Tyler is next level skeptical. And on the way home, he was like, if this is a possibility to bring in some income, even just like a little bit of income, I think maybe you should try it. And I was like, okay, like if you're giving, not permission, but if you're giving me like your blessing to do this, then I'll give it a try, whatever. And so I text Brooke the next morning and I was like, okay, whatever, sign me up, tell me what I need to do. I ordered like a custom welcome pack, which was a stretch. Like even just spending that amount of money was not something I wanted to do because we are so strapped for money at this point. And so I get my products. I got them in November. It's like, you know, mid-November. Brooke's like, okay, when are you going to start sharing? And I was like, I don't know, like just keep making all these excuses, like why I'm not actually sharing anything. And I was scared, like I didn't want to be, you know, that person. I had already done the MLM thing. I didn't want to be that person selling something else. And so I just kept coming up with excuses as to why I wasn't sharing. And so it's like close to the end of the month and she messaged me and she's like, okay, your friend Steph wants to try Plexus. You're going to sign her up. And then that's going to start your fast track. And I was like, oh, great. So she's like pushing me out of the nest. So we signed up Steph. And then I wasn't still really sharing. And like the last day of the month, which was not good planning, the last day of the month, I share myself making active or something. And all these people started asking me like, what are you making? What is that? And I was like, you know, trying to keep up with all these messages. By the end of the night, I signed up 2 other people at like 10:30 the last day of the month. And I'm like under my covers texting Brooke, like, help me, I don't know how to do this. And so we get these 2 people signed up and I hit my fast track silver. And then it just kept like snowballing, fast track senior silver, faster gold, faster senior gold. And it's like, okay, I'm starting to see like this potential and it's like exciting and it's fun. And I remember like hitting fast start gold and I get that first paycheck. And I've told the story before, I told it in our business chat or whatever, but I got that paycheck and my kids were on spring break. And I said, okay, boys, we are going to go to the shoe store. You need new shoes. I've been putting it off because like a lot of kids, a lot of shoes, like that's expensive. And so I load them up. I take them to the shoe store and I was like, you can pick whatever you want. And they're used to like once upon a child shoes, like used shoes. And they're like, we can pick whatever we want. And I said, you can pick whatever shoes you want. And so they were so excited and so grateful. And I remember like going up to the checkout and I paid for their shoes. And I remember leaving and I was like, I don't feel that pit in my stomach because I know that I can cover the cost of those shoes. And we still have money left over for groceries. We still have money for our car payment. And so that was like my biggest motivation to keep doing this. And then I hit fast start senior gold and Tyler like checks our bank account and he was like, you made how much this month? And I was like, right, because you're so skeptical. And here we are, like we're actually bringing in an income. And so that has just been like super motivating and super fun. I'm going to get back on my notes here because I don't want to go too far off. So now like Tyler is resigning as a pastor in July. And that's crazy for us. He's been doing this for 10 years and that's been our major source of income. And he's just got this new like software job, which is great. But my motivation is to be able to cover cover his salary that he was making as a pastor. And so I think when you're figuring out your why, it's more than your why. Like, what do you need? Like, what does your family need? And right now, like my family needs me to cover the cost of Tyler moving on from this job. That's no longer like fulfilling us. And so that is like what we need, what we're desperate for. And that is what motivates me. And so some things that are working for me, like these aren't going to be super groundbreaking, but take it for what you will. So my biggest thing is I have to be organized. And so the way I organize my people is I have an Excel sheet and I have every single person I've ever talked to on there. There's like at this point, probably close to 400 people on there, but I put their name, when I talk to them, like what social media platform I'm talking to them on, and like a little bit about our conversation. So if they have told me like, this isn't a good time, or if it's, too expensive, then like when I get like vouchers or when there's like a discount or a deal, I can go back to those people that have told me that things are too expensive and say, hey, I have this, Brooke just left the chat. That's not good. So I can go back to those people and say like, hey, I had this discount. Maybe now's a better time. But if you're not keeping track of those people, you have no way to follow back up with them. And so being super organized and just a little bit about what your conversation is so you can best serve them later when maybe it's a better time for them. I have all of the people that I have ever signed up in. Most of my people are on Instagram. I have most of them or all of them in like their own separate pod, like a little messenger. And so I message everybody like the same mass message email at the beginning of the month. I tell them like what the incentive is if you're interested in sharing the business. I tell them like what the deals are, what the promos are. That way everybody gets the information. And then every single Monday, I wake up super early and I send out check-ins to every single person that's ordered for me because, customer care is huge. Brooke keeps telling me like, you have to retain all these people. And so you have to find a system that works for you. And so far, like checking in with them every Monday, it might seem excessive, but people want to know that you're still there. They're not ordering from you. And then you don't want to fall off the face of the earth and never talk to them again, because then it starts feeling like, well, she just wanted me for a sale. If they know that you care about them, they're more likely to continue, to keep ordering. Social media. So I have a pretty decent following on social media. That's something that I've been building for like probably 4 years at this point. But I want to like put things in perspective for you, because I think when you see somebody who has a lot of followers, it's like, well, of course she's successful because she has all these people. But so I have over 20,000 followers, but on my stories, I only probably get probably like 400 to 500 views. That seems like a lot, but that's not compared to like how many people follow me. And then when I'm posting like, vote on this poll if you're interested or whatever, sometimes I don't get any interaction on those. It's not like I'm having all these people, interacting with those posts. Sometimes I get nothing, zero. That doesn't mean you don't keep doing it. So I just wanted to like put that in perspective for you. If you don't have a lot of followers, you can still be successful with this business. It's not essential to have a ton of followers. Be consistent. I think if you show up super consistent for like a couple days and then you fall off the face of the earth, people are like, well, where did she go? Is she still using those products? They must not work. So you have to keep sharing, keep being consistent. And I think one of the biggest things is people are following you. Like they want you to be you. If you're boring, that means that you are relatable. You don't need to take content from other people because people are following you because they enjoy you. Like Emily posted this reel today of her dancing around. I am never going to be dancing around on Instagram. And that's okay because that's not my personality. And so you have to figure out like, what is you? Like, what is your social media personality, and just kind of run with it. You are more than Plexus. Like, for example, I have 4 kids. So I share about my kids. I share about my husband coaches football. I share about being a solo parent for all that time. Just like lots of things. You are more than Plexus. People are interested in you. They want to know more about you. They don't want to know just about Plexus. So you have to kind of like sprinkle it in every now and then and show how it works in your life. So for me, like if y'all went to the retreat, you know that Cohen is the worst sleeper in the world. He is awful. And so people know that because I'm talking about it. But then people also see me mixing up my active in the morning, and I'm still able to work out. I'm still able to take my kids to the park. I'm still able to engage with my other kids throughout the day. And they're like, you're so sleep deprived. How are you doing this? And it's like, oh, because I'm taking the supplements. Like that's how I'm surviving. So being like proof of the product is huge too. I think it's super important to build connections before you try to make a sale. It's important to find out what people need. Like if people are posting about, themselves being super tired, that's what they need. They need the active. They need, the Metaburn, everything that, that you would need if you were sleep deprived. But you're not going to know that if you're not making connections with them, and then you can't best serve them. So finding out what they need shows them that you care about them and that you value them. Did Brooke ever come back on here? I
Yes,
don't
she's
think
got
okay, great. Okay, because we're getting close to the end here, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Okay. Also something important is know that some months are going to be slower than others. And so for me, like I built super, super fast. And then like last month, it was a little bit slower. And so I'm like, okay, am I doing something wrong? What am I doing? I'm not doing enough. And that's not true. Like you're still doing all the things. You're not failing. Everything's fine. Like you just have to know that sometimes it's going to be super fast and super exciting, and other months are going to be slower. And that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Also, like setting goals is huge. For me, like I will always hit whatever that incentive is, like I will always hit that. I don't care what it is. Like I know some people are not super excited, myself included, about whatever I don't even know what the incentive is this month because it's not an iPad, but if you're hitting that incentive, you're adding 3 people a month at least, like you're still building your business. And so I think that's also super important. I kind of touched on this at the beginning, but just my last thing is you really have to figure out, like, go beyond your why, like figure out what your why is, but go beyond that. Like, what do you need? What are you desperate for? And for me currently, like I said, I'm trying to replace Tyler's income. I'm trying to make some money so we can save up for a down payment on a house, because if you know how like the pastor system works, we live in a parsonage. And so the church owns this. And so now that he is no longer a pastor, like, okay, so we're going to have to move. And as of right now, like, I don't know what that looks like for us. I just know that we're going to have money for a down payment or rent or something, so that is like my main focus right now. So I'm using that as my motivation. You have to figure out like what you need, what your family needs. And I promise that will drive you to be successful. So that's all I have. I don't know where Brooke is. Hopefully she's here somewhere.
I'm here. I got
okay,
my
great.
internet like went out.
I didn't see you and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to end this. So I'm glad that
You're
you're
gonna
here.
have to lead the whole thing. No.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Not me tearing up over here, like listening to her. Every time she tells about like getting to take her boys and letting them pick out whatever shoes they want, like that makes me want to cry. So anyways, I feel like I don't even need to follow that up with anything because that was so good. But I do have some notes for you guys because I wanted to kind of share like on my end what led to that. And you heard her say that Kyle was the one who brought it up to her, but I know that I had said stuff to Vanessa throughout the years. She had watched our life transform because of these products. And honestly, I don't know if I've ever told her this part either, but leading up to that, we had talked about like how good she would be at this. And Kyle was like, well, why don't you tell her? I'm like, I already have told her, like she knows. And I was like, why don't you tell her? And he was like, okay, I'll say it. I'm like, okay, great. So I feel like I want you to know, don't give up on those people who are your dream teamers. But Vanessa's been on my dream team list for forever, since before I even started, and I wanted her to do this with me. And she did another MLM in between. She explored like other things. She did photography and health and wellness, her own health and wellness business. So just because somebody says no or not right now, like it doesn't mean forever. It doesn't mean that their situation will not change, or they won't come to a point where they're like, okay, I've been watching you and I really want you to help me. And sometimes we can get discouraged because we feel like nobody wants to do this with us. But I promise, if you keep showing up, and like Vanessa said, you keep showing up, there will come a point or a change in their life where they're ready to join you. But that doesn't happen by chance though either. Like you have to be identifying those people who are your dream dreamers. Like if you don't have a list, I would really encourage you to write down a list of those people and cast that vision for them. Like, what does that mean? What does casting vision mean? Doesn't mean like you're casting, a line, but like tell them how good you think that they would be at this and tell them why, but not like a phony, like you'd be so good at what I do, but like a genuine, I really know that you could be successful at this because of X, Y, and Z. Would you be open to talking more about that or seeing what that might look like for you? But I really think you have to have your list of business builders, potential business builders first. And that could be people who are already using the products with you, or it could be people who haven't even tried the products before. You have a list and you're loving on them and you're building a relationship with them. And I didn't like talk about Plexus with Vanessa every time that we got together. And truthfully, you guys probably know this. Sometimes it's harder to talk to the people closest to you, harder to talk to those people than it is to talk to like random people on the internet. And so I wouldn't bring it up that often, but every once in a while we'd go on a trip and I'd be like, it'd be really fun to go to Hawaii together someday. Just like kind of planting those seeds. And that's what you have to do for those people is you have to show them the potential that it has for their lives. So we had very similar situations, a lot of kids, small homes, and she saw and she got to see how the financial end, the business end of Plexus transformed our house, and we were able to remodel our house and add on to our home, like all of that. And I feel like those people on social media, those people in real life, they're also watching you guys. And it doesn't have to be that big of like a, you like built a new home because of Plexus, but just showing them the little things like all these groceries I got today were because of Plexus. I just filled up, however much it costs for you to fill up your car at the gas station. You show that on your stories. Thanks for the gas, Plexus. Like just little things like that. You went out to dinner and your bill was $100 and thanks for dinner, Plexus. Like kind of creating that vision for people and where they go, huh, like could that be something for me? But what I also think is really important is you have to tell those people because I am like a huge believer in everybody would do this if they thought they could. But there's something holding them back from doing that. And it's their own belief in themselves or it's their fears about what other people are going to think or what if they fail. And so they don't have that belief and they have to borrow our belief. And sometimes we need somebody to tell us, hey, I think you'd be really good at this. I actually think you could do this. Like that means so much to people. And they might not have anybody telling them that in any other areas of life. And we have to be the people to cast that vision for them. Like, I think you'd be awesome at this, but also like, this is what this could do for your family. Like, this could replace your husband's salary. Like, this could pay for your car payment. This could pay for your mortgage. So helping show them and creating a picture of what their life would be like with Plexus. I think one area or one thing that I wish if I could go back and do anything different in my Plexus journey, it would have been sharing more about the business early on. I feel like we really heavily focus on the products and the products are awesome and they're wonderful and I love the products. But if I could go back and just share more about the business from the beginning, if you think about the ratio of how many times you share about the products to how many times you share about the business, why would we expect to, why is my printer going off right now? Anyway, sorry. Why would we expect to attract business builders if we're posting 9 times about the products and once about the business? But then we're going to expect like 9 people to join us for the business. No, you have to think about the numbers. If you're going to post 9 to 1 products to business, you're going to attract probably 9 people to the products and maybe 1 person to the business. And I hear so many people getting frustrated about like none of these people want to share. I have all these customers that love their products and none of them want to share. And it's like, yeah, they didn't join for that. And like we can keep casting that vision for them. And I do believe if we do that, there will be a point where they come around. But I also think it's so important for us to be attracting people who join for the business and who want that. And we're telling them what's possible for them with the money. And so that's kind of been like my shift and my focus is sharing more about that I want to attract those serious people. Like, I don't want these people who are just here to like get their products paid for. Like, that's great. I love those people too, just the same. And I'll help them get their products paid for. But I want people who are in it with me, like for the long haul, because they see the vision and what it can do for them and their families. So attracting people for the business, sharing about the business more openly and taking them along for the ride and how it is bettering your life, not just the products, but especially the money part of that. Another thing to think about if you are though trying to attract business builders and we're talking about attracting business builders or even trying to cast some vision for your current customers into becoming business builders. And here's a question you can ask yourself, are you overcomplicating it? So when you are going back and look at those conversations that you had with them when you were helping them get started and helping them join, and if they cannot look at that and say, I think I could do that, they're going to be intimidated. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't know how she did that. She knew so much information. Like, I can't know all of that information. And I always go back to Bob Heilig. If you guys have done any of his trainings, like he always says, do not be the expert. When you are the expert, then other people feel like they cannot be the expert or they're not the expert. And so then when you approach them about, I think you'd be so good at this, they're like, no way, I can't do what you do because I don't know all that information. It kind of like bites you in the butt later on. But I also think that this is kind of like my sweet spot is like not pretending to be somebody that I'm not. And I will show up on social media like a hot mess. And there's a reason for that. And it's because I want you guys to know that you don't have to have it all together to do what I do. Like, I'm not going to come on here full face of makeup and pretend to be somebody that I'm not because I don't do that hardly ever. But I think if you are showing up in your authentic self, and I think that's why Vanessa's done so well too. Like she shows up in her authentic self every single day and shows real life and doesn't pretend to be anything other than who she is. People see you and they go, I can do that. Like Brooke's a hot mess. If she can do that, I can certainly do that too. Like she's got a lot of kids. She doesn't have her life all together. Like things are not perfect and you don't have to be perfect in order to do this. So it's okay to share those messy parts of your life too. So anyways, I sidetracked. Don't be the expert. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't word vomit. Just simplify it. Keep it really simple because people will look at that later and they'll ask themselves, can I do what they did? And it's going to be yes or no based on how you handled that conversation. I also wanted to talk a little bit about, okay, so when you are sending those messages to somebody, like I want you to make your list of your business builders and then start sending the messages. If you don't have a relationship with them, start building that relationship. But if you do have a relationship and you talk with them or you message back and forth sometimes, like start casting some vision for them. Like, hey, I know you're going through something right now, and I have just been thinking about you a lot. I don't know if some extra money would be helpful for you right now, but I am looking to help coach some people to make some extra money. Would you be open to hearing more about that? And just genuinely say to them, like, I have no idea if this would be helpful to you, but I've been thinking about you a lot and I wondered if you might want to talk more about this. And then when they say yes, what you want to do is set up a time to talk more with them via Zoom or on the phone. And this is a format that I've been following from Christina Williams. So my natural inclination, if I would get a potential business builder on a Zoom where I would meet up with them for coffee or lunch, what I would think I would want to do, or what I have done in the past, is like go over the compensation plan and go over the back office and like show them the numbers and how to make money. Does anybody else go there? Like, okay, they want to know how to do this. No, actually, you don't do any of that. And that's the crazy part. When you get somebody who says, yes, I'm open to hearing more about this, you're going to get them on the phone. You're going to get them on a Zoom so you can see them face to face. You're going to connect with them. You're going to ask them, what has you open to considering this? Like, I know this is kind of crazy. I know people judge what I do. What has you open to even considering this? And you can just hear from them. Like, that gives them a chance to really say where they're at with things. And then you ask them, how much money would be a blessing starting out? Like, how much money a month would be a blessing to you and your family? And when they tell you that amount, or they might be stumped by that, because that's what I've had from a lot of people. Oh, I don't know, like a couple hundred. I haven't really thought about that. But when they tell you that, you affirm what they're saying. Like, I hear you saying that it would cover groceries for my family. For me, it was covering the cost of our health insurance or whatever. You would kind of relate to them in that way. But what if I told you, like, I think that that is possible and that's just scratching the surface of what's possible for you? What if you were able to make double that amount of money? How would that make you feel? What would that allow room for your family or in your budget? And then you let them talk about what that would be for their family. So see how you're kind of creating this vision for them of like, oh, they start here and they start kind of small and then they're like, oh, but then you're like helping them dream a little bit bigger and see a little bit more. And then you tell them that is possible. Like, we have people making that kind of money every single month. And I feel really confident that I could help you do that. I want you to think really big here. And then maybe you throw out like an even bigger number and just ask them like what that would do for their family. So when you get kind of through all of that and you're just kind of like figuring out, that kind of helps you figure out their why too, like their priorities as far as their finances go and what that would allow for their families. then you just straight up ask them. I'm sure there are some fears or limiting beliefs coming up. As we talk about this, I know there are some objections coming up in your head. Is there anything I need to be aware of that could be holding you back? And you let them, and this is great. Like, I know that maybe this makes you sweat because you're like, but they're going to say all the things. But it's so good because then you know what their objections are, right? Then you know what their biggest obstacles are going to be, what their biggest fears are. And you can say, I get it because that was me too. Like, I was so worried about what people would think. I was so scared that people would stop talking to me or judge me or this or that. So you kind of use that feel, felt, found method. Hopefully you've heard of that before, but I know exactly how you feel because I felt the same way, but what I found helped me was this. So you're kind of helping overcome their objections. And then you just say, like, if I could help you through that and show you how to overcome that, would this be something that you would consider? And then they say yes or no, or they have more questions. That is like the super general fast formula, though, you guys, of having those conversations with business builders. And the cool thing about it is you don't have to know anything about the compensation plan to have that conversation. You don't have to know anything about the back office to have that conversation. You don't have to know anything about the products to have that conversation. And I think sometimes we get stuck in our own heads because we think that we have to know all the things or be at a certain rank or be at a certain level before we can have those conversations with people or before we can approach people about the business. And that's not true. If you are on this call, you are 100% capable of having those conversations with people about the business. And even if it's just to say, you know what, I don't know all the things, but I do have some mentors who've been doing this longer than me that can help us learn all the things together. And that's the cool thing too, because it shows them that you don't have to know everything to do this. You don't have to know all of that stuff to start making money. Like, you can just start sharing where you are at. Truthfully, I think like the biggest thing that I want you to take away is just build that belief for people. Like, they don't have it for themselves. You can build that belief for them. I think that we've all needed someone to do that for us at one point or another. I know I've needed that multiple times throughout my business, and it just helps when you have somebody else telling you what's possible and showing you what's possible. Do not assume that you know if somebody needs this or not. Do not assume, oh, they didn't. They said no before. Like, they have no interest in that. Really? How do you know? Because I know Vanessa's husband was the most skeptical person on the entire planet who I was super intimidated of. But you never know what somebody's financial situation might be, where they could really use this. And who are we to judge that for them or to hold this opportunity from them because we're scared of what they might think? Like, what if that hadn't happened? What if we hadn't had those conversations and Vanessa wasn't sharing about this? Like, how guilty would I feel that they need this money, but here I am over here, like, my own self is in the way because I'm worried about what they're going to think, but they could be making money from this. And I see that potential, but I'm just not saying it because I'm worried about what she might think. And also remember that people are always watching you. Even if you feel like nobody's commenting, nobody's interacting, like, people are always watching you. So keep showing up, keep doing the things. Don't take that as a sign that nobody wants to do this with you. No, I promise that they're watching, and there will come a day, it might be 5 years down the road, but there will come a day where they're ready to do it with you if you have stuck with it and you've kept going. Okay. Ooh, I think I'm done. I'm sorry, I talked really fast. But any comments, questions, concerns before I wrap this up? I know I went a little bit over.
Brooke, do you have a financial story kind of like Vanessa's, like a moment where your Plexus Pay, you were like, okay, I'm doing this thing? I would love to hear that.
Yes. So when I started, like, seeing the vision for the business, I remember I was working full time as a social worker. So I was getting home late after my kids were going to bed, several nights a week. And I actually remember I was like sharing about Plexus, and I was a social worker, and my boss was like, no, you can't share those personal things like on Facebook. Like, you're a mental health counselor and your clients could see that stuff. And I remember being like, okay, who are you to tell me what I can and can't share on social media? And also I was tired of missing out on my kids' bedtime stuff. And I felt like, it was after I had my third kid. And so I had a 2-year-old, 1-year-old, and a baby. And my boss made me feel really guilty about taking another maternity leave within, I had taken like 3 maternity leaves, like very close together. And I remember thinking like enough was enough. She made me feel so guilty. I went back to work at 6 weeks after I had Ellie, and I set my sights on senior gold because that would allow me to drop down to part-time at my work. And I was carrying the insurance for our family at the time. My husband was self-employed. So that would allow me to cover the cost of my products and pay for like private insurance and be home with our kids. So senior gold was like, that was it. Like when I set my sights, I like ran for that and I knew. So then I got to senior gold. I was able to quit that job and had another part-time job. And eventually worked my way to the point where I didn't have to work at all. But that was, I feel like the it moment for me. It was like, I'm tired of reporting to other people. Nobody can tell me what I can and can't share on social media. Nobody's going to make me feel guilty about taking a maternity leave. And so I am like, I'm done working for insurance. I'm going to be my own boss, and I'm going to do that through Plexus. All right. I did not.
I love that. I love that. I love hearing y'all's financial wins. Does anybody else have any questions? Speak now, use the chat, do all the things.
I didn't get to read any of this.
Can I add one more thing? Brooke,
Yes.
Do you remember we went out to dinner one time and we went somewhere like by the mall? And I'm pretty sure you took me out to dinner like as a business pitch. And on the way home, you were telling me like, I think you had just hit senior gold. And you're like, I just hit this rank and, I'm going to be part-time. And I remember you saying, maybe it was Emily's name, but you were like, but there's this girl and she makes like this crazy amount of money. And you're like, I'll never get there. And then here you are. Like, look what you did. Like you freaking did it.
That's crazy. I do remember that dinner, and you guys, that was years ago. So like, I thought I had.
And I said no.
Then I didn't. And she did other things in the meantime, and here we are.
What's even funnier is Scott and I are sitting here talking about that one year that it was just you in Hawaii with me and him. We all went to dinner, and you were like, if I could just get my sister-in-law do this with me. And I'm like, dude, this is a full circle Zoom. I wish we could like remember that night. Like it's just so good, you guys. This is just speaking volumes to all of you that have had that skeptical family member, that one person in your life that's just like, no. And this makes you like beet red. And you're just like, what am I doing? And you get imposter syndrome because that person tells you no when, your kids tell you no all day long. Right. But oh my gosh, I just love this so much. Vanessa and Brooke, thank you so much for sharing. Does anybody have anything else that they're just like, I gotta say it, please unmute. Tell us all the things. Anybody. Okay, well, we love you. Thank you for getting on, and we will see y'all next Tuesday. Brooke, you got anything else?
Nope, that's good. Thank you.
All right, bye, you guys. Thanks for getting on.